Hey everybody, Rosmus Prime back again with my friend Plo Kool, and we're going to be talking about how we believe that the Bad Batch would be a lot better off in many respects if they actually opened up the scope and kind of treated it more as a sequel series to the Clone Wars that kind of explored all the kind of bigger things going on in the galaxy during this, early Imperial era, rather than kind of more narrowly focusing on the Bad Batch. Because in a lot of ways that kind of is like a crutch, because then every single thing that they're trying to tell has to be done through the lens of the squad. And even though that they're, good set of characters, it limits what you can do. But how have you felt about that, Plo?
Um, yeah, I think lately I've been really thinking about that and when I've been watching Bad Batch because when the show started with season 1 with that great premiere that was essentially like a movie. It was like 70 minutes. And it even started with the Clone Wars logo burning away
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then revealing the Bad Batch, and that was just like it's basically telling you this is the sequel.
Hmm.
Um and that episode felt like a sequel. To the Clone Wars. And then throughout the season, it would just be um these little side missions, and then when they get with Sid, like the side missions, and it would just be like, okay, this is the Bad Batch show, and then Rex would show up, and now it's the sequel to the Clone Wars, and then we get the more side missions, and then something else would happen. Gregor would show up, and now it's a sequel to the clone, and it's just like it was like basically biding its time. It felt like to follow up on things from the Clone Wars, but it wasn't consistently doing it. Um, and now with this season, it's been really apparent that like even the first episode, like the premiere was anticlimactic. It just felt like another mid-season episode, like it was cool that they were on Sereno, but they didn't do all that much
Yeah.
with the fact. Like, they did a little bit with like that one, I forget his name, that one character.
Oh, the
Um
the old guy in the
yeah,
in like the woods. Yeah, like the,
yeah,
the local Serenian. Yeah.
yeah, the Serenity. Like that was an interesting perspective on like because that was a with Dooku and Sereno and the
Yeah.
Separatists. Like that was interesting, but that was still like that was the only thing in the episode that really made it feel like it was justified for them to really be on Sereno. There wasn't much
Yeah. In like two whole episodes. That was
yeah,
like
and it
one of
was
the
just
only
like
really interesting things.
yeah, I was like, okay. And then the stuff with Rampart at the end of the one episode where he kills Wilco.
Hmm.
Like we get that like again, there's like these little sprinkles, and then
Yeah.
in the season there was the stuff with Chuchi, Senator
Best
Chuchi.
episodes so far, in my opinion.
Excellent
Yeah.
episode. Um and that was a two-parter as well, and it felt straight out of those like uh more political episodes in
Yeah, from the Clone Wars. Yeah.
season 3 of Clone Wars. It felt exactly like that. It's just like the
Oh yeah.
show, and that's when I really started to realize this show is at its best when it's a sequel to the Clone Wars. But like even those episodes were um mostly focused on Chuchi. They weren't really focused on the Bad Batch.
Yeah. Like as we've seen pretty commonly, like a lot of times the best episodes of the show are the ones that either don't have them at all or they're not the main focus.
Yeah, and yeah, I was just even last season with Hera in
Yeah. On
or
Ryloth. Yeah.
in Shams Syndulla. Like again, the Bad Batch were hardly in those episodes, but it was a continuation of the Ryloth episodes from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, which were great. Yeah, that was a whole like three
Yeah,
episode arc in like season one of Clone Wars. That I love
yeah,
that
it was
arc.
just like excellent follow up, and then more recently, with the latest episode with the Zillo Beast.
Yeah, follow up to the Zilbeast episodes in season two of Clone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and this was that was like a good way. Like the Bad Batch were very much involved in that episode.
Hmm.
Like it was actually like one of those Clone Wars plot threads where it actually felt like, oh, the Bad Batch are actively involved in this.
Hmm.
Um, because I think you can use the Bad Batch well as like uh, plot devices of like showing them as you know what does it mean to be a clone now. What is their place in the galaxy? Like that's how you can use them the most in terms of that, but I still feel like this show would just be better if it was like following up on all of these things of a wider scope and it could hop around from characters to
100%.
characters like the Clone Wars, like the tying connective tissue throughout the Clone Wars was Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, but they could go on for episodes and episodes without ever showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And those are like technically the main characters, but the show was still very much an anthology and it was moving around all over the place. And I just think like when you limit yourself to a certain type of like narrow focus just on the Bad Batch, you're limiting your unnecessarily limiting yourself as storytellers instead of just embracing a wider scope.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's what made the Clone Wars so great is like you said, you have Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and other people who are kind of the more like, prominent characters. But yeah, you'd have tons of episodes where they weren't even in it. I mean, you'd have side episodes about side characters, and that's what allowed you to focus more like less on like following specific characters and more about like focusing on an era. So I mean, the Clone Wars is my favorite era in all of Star Wars, and it's great to have the show just focus on different parts. Like I mean, like you had episodes like the Kit Fisto and the Dar Veb episode,
Hmm.
General Grievous's lair. I mean, that didn't have anybody like Anakin or Obi-Wan or Ahsoka, or I guess Ahsoka's in the beginning, like briefly, but you know, you know what I mean? Like it's just, focus on like side characters that you'd never see kind of, getting their own show, but it's very interesting to see them for, certain episodes. And like you said, I think it would be so much better instead of calling it like Star Wars The Bad Batch, they found some kind of more like umbrella name to give it. So it's just
The
talking more about this early Imperial era.
the
Because I
Dark
mean,
Times would be a great name.
yeah, exactly. Something just like to make the show clear that it's talking more about the era and not just the Bad Batch. Because then, you can talk about, I mean, the things people are really interested in, I'm thinking of, the clones and what's going on with them and a potential uprising and the switch to the Stormtrooper program and just overall what's going on in the galaxy at this time period, you know, and having to make it all through the Bad Batch is basically they're trying to tell those stories, but they have to tell them with the Bad Batch because it's the Bad Batch show. So they have to try and connect them to everything. But it's just like I said, it's kind of a crutch, and I mean it'd be so much better if they just had that wide open, non-narrow focus where you could go off and have episodes without the Bad Batch and the Bad Batch were just one of many different groups of characters that were featured. Because yeah, I agree. Senator Chuchi was fantastic. Reminded me how much I liked her a lot in the Clone Wars, and just reminded me how much I really respect her character. And like you said, all those callbacks to all those political episodes that were, I guess, probably most popular in like season 2 and 3 of the Clone Wars. And I've always enjoyed those. I'm actually a political science major myself,
Oh
so
wow.
I love all that stuff. Seeing Star Wars politics has always been so interesting. And like Bail Organa, Padme Amidala, all these characters are so interesting to see in the Senate. So that's a great thread to follow up on in the Bad Batch.
Hmm.
One of many threads that could be followed up on. So it would be so much better if the Bad Batch were just one of many different, stories they were telling in this show instead of them having to be the main people. Especially since like the episodes with them are more often than not the episodes we don't like as much. Like I would say the best episodes in season 3 so far have been, or season 2, have been episode 3, like the clone conspiracy with Cody and Crosshair, and then 7 and 8 with Senator Chuchi and the Senate and everything with Palpatine and getting Rampart screwed over and everything. All that. Those are the 3 best episodes in my opinion from this season, and none of those had the Bad Batch featured prominently.
Yeah. And I think Crosshair has been criminally underutilized throughout the
Is that the
season.
only episode he's been in?
Yeah.
Episode 3? I think it
Yeah.
might be the only one in this season.
Yeah. That is the only one. And it's just like, why? Like
Yeah.
if the Bad Batch were actually doing anything interesting for most of the season, they've had a few good episodes, but like most of them, it's just like, why can't we just have episodes? If you're not going to do anything with the Bad Batch from a character standpoint or even a narrative standpoint, then why can't we focus on Crosshair and his life within the Empire?
Yeah.
And his obviously his I it was apparent he was having more of a moral struggle.
Yeah.
And like why can't we explore that a little bit more? And we can,
Yeah, that
because
would be very interesting. to
Yeah, because
explore.
he's still technically, a member. Like he isn't a part of the Bad Batch right now, but like he still falls under that umbrella of like
Yeah,
he's a main
absolutely.
character, and it's just it's disappointing that they've haven't taken advantage of how he's the most interesting character in the show. So
I wish they
it's
would follow up on him more, and especially with the whole, moral kind of dilemma he's dealing with. It's like because I felt like they started building up a little bit on that in the episode with Cody, like kind of at
hmm
the end where he like ends up killing the governor. I felt like he hesitated a little more than he would have otherwise in the past.
hmm
You know what I mean? Like
hmm
he killed her like in cold blood, like after that Imperial guy like ordered him, but like that guy had to say it like twice. Crosshair kind of I feel like hesitated a little bit, you know? So I felt like that was a little bit of development for like kind of how he's feeling about the Empire and everything. But then we haven't seen him since, so we haven't built on that at all. And then Cody, I mean, he was fantastic in that episode. So I mean, I would have loved to have seen more of him since then, but he just disappeared at the end, and then that was done.
hmm
So
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing. Like I was a little like Cody was great in that episode, but I would have liked to have seen him make that decision to leave instead of it being mentioned off screen
mhm.
that he went AWOL. I'm still actually a little um, skeptical of that. I wonder if maybe Rampart imprisoned him or something, and that was his excuse or something that he went AWOL. And
Yeah,
maybe we're gonna learn more about that. But I don't know because there's like with Hauser in season one, the clone captain,
yeah.
and Ryloth, was spoke up, and he was jailed, and we haven't seen him since then. So it wouldn't surprise me if him and Cody show up later, like together or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up because I had forgotten about that. But I mean, I'm assuming even besides Hauser and Cody, that there's other clones who have been,
hmm
rising up and kind of, starting to, show that they're thinking independently,
hmm
more and more and trying to, escape the Empire, questioning orders, that kind of thing. So you're probably right. Honestly, there might be some kind of like prison or, some kind of facility they have somewhere where they're keeping these clones. So we'll see. As long as they don't kill him off screen. I'm gonna be
Yes,
mad if somehow they just say, "Oh yeah, he was like executed or something." Like
that would be ridiculous. Yeah.
we need to see him again, whether it's him being incarcerated or him somehow getting off. And that would set up a great mission if he actually is incarcerated, like him and Hauser. I mean, that could set up a good mission for Rex and Echo and or the Bad Batch to go and try and bust them out. But yeah, we need to see more of Cody and Crosshair, like 100%.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And yeah, but we got the show we have. So even though we'd prefer, kind of a more broader scope show that was just more a sequel to Clone Wars, we got the Bad Batch, and that's kind of the focus they've decided to go with. So hopefully, just with that story, there are interesting stories to tell with it still. So hopefully they, continue to do that instead of just side missions the entire time.
I agree.
And even though it is, like I said, a crutch, I think you can still weave in really good stories with them that also talk about the wider scope of things going on in the galaxy. So, you know, hopefully they'll continue to, improve it and focus on the stuff we've really liked so far and kind of try and do away with the. I don't want to call some of the episodes I don't like filler because I mean, like, you can't have every episode be like, have like the entire universe at stake, So I mean, you want to have side episodes for development and stuff like that, but there's good filler and there's bad filler, I guess for lack of
Yes.
a better way to say it. Like the
Yeah.
riot racing episode, I thought that was good.
hmm
Like, I mean, it wasn't necessarily something that like advanced the plot a lot, but that was a fun side episode. So that was what I guess I would refer to as good filler. I like that.
Yeah. Like I really just don't use the word filler anymore. I think mostly
Yeah.
maybe if you can use it correctly, just mostly because I feel like roughly 75% of the time people don't use it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because filler can be used in a sense like Clone Wars had filler technically,
Mhm.
but some of those are excellent episodes like the Nadar Veb
Yeah.
General Grievous. Like technically you could say that's filler,
Hmm.
but it's awesome. Like it doesn't mean
Oh yeah.
it's like a waste of time. The Bad Batch just has these episodes where it feels like it's wasting its time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's kind of where, like I said, it's hard to use the word filler, but like
Mhm.
the Bad Batch has a lot of episodes that are like, I guess what you call bad filler, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, like you said, the Clone Wars, I mean, I would argue almost more episodes than not could have technically been done away with, and you wouldn't like need them to like understand, how you get from the beginning of the Clone Wars to the end of the Clone Wars with Order 66 and stuff. But there were
Mhm.
tons of episodes that just added to the development of the galaxy at that time and the characters. So, I mean, the vast majority of what you could call filler in the Clone Wars were excellent episodes. But the
Mhm.
Bad Batch, they haven't done that as much. So,
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah. Anyways, I still like the show for what it is, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited. I still tune in every week. I'm excited to watch it still. It still entertains me. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so you know, I'm gonna find stuff. Like the prequels are riddled with issues, but I mean, I still love the prequels. Just
Yeah.
because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So I still enjoy the Bad Batch. I'm still gonna keep watching it. I'm not gonna ever drop out or anything like that. But it would be nice if they hopefully just get back on track and hopefully try to continue to weave in all these threads that we really want to see with all these characters outside of the Bad Batch.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I don't wanna ever be one of those like, there's a way to criticize things without being toxic, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's like I still enjoy the Bad Batch. I still like the show overall, but
Yeah.
it's good to keep a good critical eye on these things and critique where critiques are deserved.
Yeah. I mean, whenever you love something, in a lot of ways, it's going to make you critique it more. I mean, I love Star Wars. So it's like I have a lot of like, I feel very dedicated to the characters in the show. So I want to see them like given good stories and be written well. So that's something that's important. But yeah, of course, you want to also maintain, you want to be obnoxious about it or shun other people. I mean, I think it's great if there's stuff I don't like and other people like it. I think that's great. I mean, I'm never going to complain about somebody enjoying like their own content, in Star Wars. I mean, even if I dislike a certain movie or show or whatever, I mean, I think it's awesome that other people enjoy it. It's just, you know I guess you get in a lot of ways more critical about stuff you really care about you know
Mhm.
but I think it's just important to maintain constructive, respectful criticism.
Exactly.
So, and at the end of the day, that's what, yeah, leads to having a good fan base and community for Star Wars and for whatever else.
Yeah, definitely. Mhm.
Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. We have some more videos coming up. Definitely check them out. Thank you all so much for watching.